Well, indeed, a very good afternoon to you, colleague, and our viewers around the world. We are, of course, coming to you from the mother city in Cape Town. Of course, we're here for the Refiners, African Refiners and Distributors Association Week here in Cape Town. They are here, of course, the discourse here is centered around tackling challenges and also looking at opportunities in the sector, but also focusing on the issues around sustainability in this particular sector. Well, you would know, colleague, that the sector has been marred by so many challenges, and of course, it has been making headlines for quite some time. But just to talk to us further about what we're here for and what is happening here, I'm going to bring in the president of ARDA, Mr. Mustafa Abdul Hamid. Thank you so much for your time and welcome to Channels Television. Talk to us about the theme of this conference, and I do know that you are saying that Africa First, which is a step in the right direction. There are issues that are facing the continent. Talk to us about what ignited the whole idea. What is behind the theme of this 2025 ARDA conference?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity of this interview. So first of all, we've said Africa First, delivering our energy future. Because basically, fundamentally, the first law of human nature is self-preservation. Self-preservation is the first law of human nature. And there's a street saying that charity begins at home. So you ought first to be satisfied at home before you can begin to think about those outside of the home. So Africa First basically is to say that let's think about how to deliver energy to the African people. Not just because, as I said, it is an imperative, but because all around the world, Africans are more in need of energy, or if you want, are more energy poor than any other continent. It is projected that over 600 million people do not have access to electricity on the continent. Maybe 900 million maybe another 900 million do not have access to clean cooking, and etc., etc. So we ought now than ever before to concentrate on delivering energy to the African people than ever before. Secondly, why this theme is also important is that the entire world, like I said yesterday at the opening, is thinking about themselves. There's America first. There is Europe now meeting every day to say that we can no longer rely on American support for the protection of the European countries, and therefore we ought to do things ourselves. So if everybody else is doing things for themselves, then more than ever before, Africans also ought to do things for themselves. And the fact that energy is what fuels our very existence as humans shows that within the energy sector, we ought more to do this engagement. The last point, and the importance of this team, is also that the whole world is talking about energy transition, okay? Transitioning to cleaner fuels, which will mean that we are in a hurry now as a world to get out of hydrocarbon energies. But even with hydrocarbons, we do not have access to it. Many African countries are now discovering their hydrocarbon resources. Are we as Africans to just go with the global agenda of abandoning hydrocarbon resources, or do we have to set our own agenda for transitioning, what many people call a just transition? We ought to have that conversation. Do we want to leave our hydrocarbon resources stranded? My answer is that we don't have to leave our hydrocarbon resources stranded. Those that say that they are transitioning quickly into cleaner energies have been exploiting their hydrocarbon resources for over 200 years. Many countries 10 years ago, 5 years ago, etc., etc. I think that we ought to define our own agenda for a transition. So when you put all of these together, then you would understand that Africa First, delivering our energy future, is the appropriate conversation to have on the continent at this time.
Let's then talk about infrastructure gaps. How are you hoping to achieve that with a conference like this, but also the importance of public-private partnerships? There is a talks of collaboration between government and private sector. How important is that in terms of bridging the gap of infrastructure deficit in the continent?
Well, as you heard yesterday, already there are projects. I mean, APO, African Petroleum Producers Organization, has talked about these trans-African pipelines that will deliver energy resources to countries. You know, these pipelines, I mean, there's the Southern African project, then there's also the Central African project. Already there is in existence a West African gas pipeline project. And for me as a Ghanaian, nobody would teach me better the importance of these transnational energy projects, because right now, without the West African gas pipeline project, which delivers gas for powering our electricity in Ghana, without it, half of Ghana would be in darkness. Do you get the point? And that is because of the collaboration that has gone on between Ghana, Nigeria, Benin, Togo, where the entire gas pipeline passes through for delivery. So infrastructure is important. We do recognize that many African countries do not have the resources, the capacity to do it themselves. So we now have private sector people like Dangote and co stepping in to try and build refineries. Like our executive secretary said yesterday, if we are saying that we are not going to leave our hydrocarbon resources stranded, we are going to exploit them. What are we going to do with them? We have to refine them.
Mr. President, I know you have to go, but just a final parting shot from me. Trump's tariffs, South Africa got 30%, and they say that they're still looking at ways to understand what does the tariffs means. We know that Nigeria is 14%, if I'm not mistaken.
Ghana's 10%.
Yeah, how concerned are you as a leader in this sector in terms of these tariffs that are coming out from the United States?
Well, the whole world seems worried. But let me tell you something from my very honest point of view. Trump is thinking exactly what I said before. He says America first. So I'm going to impose tariffs so that I can encourage local or American production.
So it's not selfishness?
Because humans are by nature selfish. Selfishness is not necessarily a negative quality. If Africans were also imposing these tariffs, and one thing I admire about Nigeria, for example, is what you've done with rice production. Nigeria has been bold to get where it has gotten with rice production because of the restrictions it has placed on importation of foreign rice. In my country, we haven't gotten there. Rice is perhaps, if you want, the biggest staple that is consumed in Ghana. Yet, all of our rice is imported. Now, what that does is that you require millions of dollars every month to import rice. So what does it do? It has an effect on your local currency. Your local currency is going to plummet. And once it plummets, cost of living is going to skyrocket. And there would always be economic problems. So if even an advanced country like America is thinking of protecting its local industry and ramping up local production, it should only teach us a lesson that we should also look inwards and try to either we can reciprocate if we want, if we think that reciprocation is not possible. For example, if Ghana was to say that we will reciprocate by imposing tariffs on all of these countries that bring us rice, it will shoot up the price of rice, whilst we do not have local production to match. So I'm just saying that Trump is teaching us a lesson.
Well, there you have it, colleague. That was the president of ARDA, Mr. Mustafa Abdul Hamid, talking to us there, saying that, in fact, what President Donald Trump is doing is, in fact, a wake-up call for the continent to look inward and identify new markets. But we can only hope, colleague, that the discussions that are being discussed here will result into tangible actions and timelines that are not empty. Well, it is back to you in studio for now.